All right, let's go.
Yes, sir. We back. Are you ready?
Let's get it.
All right, yo. What's up? It's your boy D Starks.
Starks the artist.
You are now tuned in to the Just Different podcast, where we talk everything faith, life, and culture. We are back for another week. Episode, where we at?
61.
61.
Yes,
another one, man. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're here for the first time, welcome. If you're returning, much love as always. Thank you for coming back and rocking with us thus far.
Yeah.
How you feeling? You good?
I'm good. I'm glad we got the intro in that time.
Oh,
last EP we missed it. I don't know if y'all noticed, but we.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all noticed. Whenever I was going back and editing the last episode we did, how did I already forget it? What was it? Bro, how did I already forget it?
Come on, bro.
Fair trade. The last episode we did, Fair Trade, I was editing it right after, and I'm like, yo, we totally forgot. We just jumped right into it.
That's the first time
That's the first time since like the very first episode that we did that. But we were just like so into the conversation. We were ready for that one though.
We were.
Yeah, we were ready to get into it, but I'm glad we did it. But yeah, all right. So up front, we haven't done this in a while, and I'm really excited that we're getting back into it, and we're kind of like doing it regularly. But little announcement, we're going to be going live every Wednesday for the rest of the year, probably around like, I want to say like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Eastern, because I'll be going to bed early. I'm old. So we're going live every Wednesday. So if you got time, we're going to be going live on IG and TikTok. So we're going to be live on both. So if you got time, you're not doing anything after studying, after work, whatever, you're chilling, hop on. We're going to be on there just talking, conversating.
Chatting it up.
Yep, having a topic, questions. And I don't know if y'all have been able to be a part of our lives before, but we used to do them a lot more, but even then we didn't do them too often. But every time we did, it was always up. It was always up. Like
every time.
We always like either had someone come on, or we just had like a fire conversation like every single time. So we always gonna like have some topics ready. Conversations, questions. We love interacting with y'all. We don't get to do that much right outside of us, like sitting right here. So I'm excited for that. So that's every week, every Wednesday. Probably I'm gonna go ahead and say like 8 p.m. Eastern. So stay tuned for that. We're supposed to actually start at the beginning of this month, but I don't know what happened last week.
I couldn't tell you. I could not.
I don't know what happened last week, but yeah, stay tuned for that. If you're not doing anything, definitely hop in, say hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And then also we've been having like, I don't know, like weird issues with like the uploading of like on our podcast distribution thing, and also on YouTube or whatever. So like the YouTube videos been coming out mad late, and then like on Thursdays episodes also have been coming out like a little later than usual. But we are every Thursday at 3 p.m. We figured out the issue. So yeah, up front every Thursday 3 p.m. after you getting out of class, coming out of work, whatever, expect us to be dropping the episode at that time. So yeah. But hey, without further ado, we'll do a short intro today because we like to talk. But let's get straight into it. So I originally, when we were coming up with this idea and this concept for this episode, it sounded great at first. It's one of those those ideas that, that sounds good. But I was like, as I started to think about it more, I was like, I don't know, like maybe we can't really like speak on it for too long. I don't know if like it's a great topic, and I was really about to just scratch it. And then like after thinking about it a lot more and like talking to a few other people, I'm like, yo, like this is very much a conversation that's very needed, that all of us like have like gone through, or at least experiencing like very like present moment. And I was like, we definitely got to do it. So today we're going to talk about trust issues. Because we all got them.
We all got them, man.
We all got them. So yeah, as I started just talking to some more people that I know, just asking them the questions and picking the brain on a topic, I was like, yo, like this is like something we definitely got to touch on, right? And like one thing that I was talking about with a lot of people is the fact that like trust is one of those things that is extremely difficult to gain, but like very, very easy to lose. Yeah. And trust has a lot to do with like the hope that you put in like someone or something, right? So like you may have like hope in like someone, like, hey, if you tell them something that's very near or dear to your heart, that's like somewhat of like a secret, like you expect or hope that they keep that in confidence, right, between you two. But then they go and like gossip or speak behind your back, right, and burn you. Or, right, you may like hope that like in your lowest moments of like when you need somebody, that someone will be there, like you trust that they'll be there, and then they're nowhere to be found, right? Like a lot of it has to do with hope, which is one of the like basic fundaments of like a lot, like where we put our hearts at, where we get our heart to. And so that's why like it's so important. And whenever I was really like thinking about like trust as a whole, this kind of like thought came to my head. And help me out and let me know if it makes sense, right?
Good.
So I was thinking about like a ladder, right? And I don't know why I kind of drew a parallel adjacent with trust to a ladder for some reason. And I was thinking about like, okay, if you're in a situation, environment, or a moment where you may need a ladder, like obviously to ascend up the ladder, you do so step by step.
Yeah.
Right. So like with every step you take, you're putting more of your weight on that ladder, right? And so the more weight I put into this, the more hope I have that it will continue to lift me up.
Oh, that's good.
So like I'm leaving like a surface. I'm leaving something that's comfortable that I know is like my foundation that's keeping me up.
Yeah.
Right. To now get on this ladder that I'm hoping will give me stability as I like escalate and climb. Right. But as you're getting up this ladder, right, and you're using it, like let that ladder fall just one time.
Just once.
Just one.
I ain't never touching the ladder again.
Let you be on that ladder and it fall one time, right? The next time that you may be in a situation where you need to use it or it's necessary, right? The next time you're gonna be way more hesitant to get on.
It's a big question mark.
You're gonna be asking a lot more questions like, yo, like where's it from? Have you used it? Like, when's the last time it's used? Is it durable? And you even gonna be telling other people, yo, you try it first. yo, go try that thing first. I'm not hopping on there, right? And so, with that, like the next time that you're getting on, it's a lot more like anxiety, like paranoia, like stress, like that and weight that you're feeling about like taking that step, right? But here's the thing. You can decide not to get on the ladder, but it may be the only vehicle to your next level. Right?
Whoa.
You can decide, you know what, I'm not going to use that, but to reach and get to where you want to go, it may be the only thing that you have. Yeah. Right? And so like trust is basically like when like I'm putting my weight into something, right? And weight essentially like involves like my heart, my emotions, my vulnerability. Like I'm putting all this into something, hoping that they're going to keep me up.
Right.
And like the latter end of that, what I was explaining is like trust is like it is necessary for everything. If any relationship that you want to be sustainable, that you want to be lasting and like fruitful, meaningful, like there has to be trust there, right? And it's one of those things that like it's gonna get those relationships are gonna get you to that next level, right? So it's one of those things that you have to take those steps, like get on, so you can escalate or like go up.
Yeah, go up.
Ascend.
I got you. Ascend. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Ascend. But yeah, I was just thinking about that, and I just drew a parallel. I thought that was good. It's definitely like trust putting your weight into something, but it's very necessary.
No, that ladder, that was fire, bro. Where you hear that from? You just like you sitting down.
It was one of those. Yeah,
it was one of them.
It was one of those.
That's fire. I think something that you kind of implied in what you were saying that I thought was really good is the fact that I think trust issues, it can lead to isolation, which is really dangerous, like you were mentioning, because we've mentioned several times the importance of relationships, and it can be hard, like when you get, burnt or get hurt in a relationship and you have those trust issues, like you said, you're going to be hesitant to get into this next relationship and to put your trust in that, but it's something that's necessary for the functionality of like any connection or relationship. So you never want to get to a place where you're missing out on something God's trying to get to you because, you haven't dealt with those trust issues. Like, I don't think it's something that can be kind of like, brushed under the rug at all.
No, for a fact. And, one of the biggest parts of all of this is like the fact that like everything or anything God wants to get to you always come in the form of a person. Right. So like, i.e., I have receipts. When we look at an Old Testament of like Israel, right? Like when Israel wanted a deliverer, like he could have spoke straight to Israel, that nation, but he spoke to Moses first.
Sent Moses. Yep.
He sent Moses. And so like whenever like whether that be like your next like promotion or rather like the financial help that you need or like, hey, the invitation to this, X, Y, and Z, fill in the blank, it's always going to come through the form of a person. And so like once we allow like trust kind of like to maybe tarnish our hearts and or like just put all these walls that we may be blocking all the things we're actually asking God for. And so I thought that was good because I think that's the importance of it. Like that's the value of it. For sure.
Yeah, you can easily get, I heard it before, like, oh, I don't need anyone but myself, me, myself, and I, I don't need anyone else. I've been there before, like, I think a lot of people have dealt with that, but, I mean, realistically,
because you really feel like that.
That's what I'm saying. When you get hurt,
it's me against the world.
It's me against the world,
It's the me versus me. It's only me.
I'm sorry. Hey, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but
it's only me.
If you going up against the world,
it's only me.
By yourself. I don't know if it's cutting it, bro. But something else that I realized with this conversation of trust issues is I think some people's trust issues are simply like a product of them trusting too easily. And that isn't for like all situations. I think in some situations that's the case. I feel like trust is something that needs to be gained. It's something that needs to be earned. And I look at it like a boundary, right? And I don't mean this like to sound like pessimistic, but I think there's certain boundaries that need to be put up when you're going into relationships. I don't think you should just be fully giving your trust right off the bat, right? To people who never even show that they can handle it or show that they protect that trust. You know what I mean? Because I've been in situations where I had met people and like the first time I talked to them, they like poured out their entire like literally everything to me. And I'm like, who's to say I wasn't? I mean, I didn't take advantage of that, but who's to say I wasn't someone who would? You know, so I think it's something that needs to be earned, and you can't give it away so haphazardly. And I think that's where a lot of people's trust issues even stem from, is because they weren't like careful with that, and they weren't cherishing that the way that they should. So that's something that you need to be wary of, is just like putting up a boundary. Like there's a line. Like obviously you shouldn't be withholding all trust, but don't give all of it right off the bat.
No, yeah, and I think, yeah, and that's good, kind of just starting off the conversation of, okay, like, how do you deal with trust issues? Like, the first part is really like, okay, like, you know, the steps you take even, like, before you get to that point of having that issue, of, like, that, like, you know, like, that trust being broken or heart, you know, like, being, like, shattered or whatever, is, like, you know, having that discernment as much as you can going into it, like knowing like who you're giving your trust to. I think it's a big step, and like really the first step of like even dealing with this. And I was listening to Trust Issues by Matthew Stevenson in his Rated R series, absolutely fire. We mentioned it before when we did Alexis EP, but he had said something that really helped me out. It made sense to me, in the fact he was talking about like the definition of trustworthy, and he was like, man, y'all wouldn't believe what the definition of trustworthy is. And he was like, it means to be worthy of trust. And basically what that means is you don't trust by, he said, you don't trust by faith, you trust by proof. So God has commanded me to love you, but he didn't force me to trust you. And he doesn't force me to trust you. So there are a lot of people who have used their Christianity to continue in naivety. But you don't, but being Christian doesn't mean you have to be naive. And so I think I thought that was a good point. Like, hey, like you don't trust by faith, you trust by proof. And so I think sometimes, like, you know, we can have this false notion of, okay, this character that we have to put on as like a Christian, of like, oh, being so good-hearted and loving and like, you know, caring and trusting of like everyone, which a part of that's true. Right. Our ultimate call is to love as Christ did, but we don't have to like trust everyone. And at the same level or same degree. That's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to use our discernment in order to know who we're supposed to give our hearts to, and that vulnerability to as well. And so I thought that was important, because I think, you know, sometimes I probably even got caught up in that myself, of just like, okay, like in the effort of, okay, quote unquote, being a good person, you know, okay, let me just like, you know, give this to like whoever, right? You know what I mean?
That's what it feels like. That's a part of it,
right? Exactly.
Right?
Like you kind of, it's almost that prerequisite, or like what is like, you know, required in that, of like, okay, like I have to trust them, but that's not the case at all. And so I think that's really like the first part of it, is like using like that discernment of, you know, that God's giving you, and obviously like through them, of like, hey, like, what is this something that I should invest in? Give like this part of myself to. And then I think that can obviously like even help you and prevent like different people that like may burn you, that like, or weren't even qualified for your heart.
And what you mentioned about loving as Christ loved, I mean, even when you look at his love for us, it never necessarily implied 100% trust. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if God has something he wants to get into the world, I feel like you have to even show yourself faithful with certain things, right? There's a level of trust, but it isn't 100% full trust with everything. You know what I mean? Even when it comes to certain like revelations he might give you, I think there's a certain level of like trust he needs to build even in you. So when you even look at that dynamic, that's the same way that we need to be living out as well. And something else, and this is more like personal, like more of like a personal anecdote for me, something that I dealt with in the past with like my trust issues.
Wait, somebody broke your trust?
Yeah.
How?
It was more of like they just didn't show up for me when I really needed them to.
Okay.
For X amount of times. Because I mean, if it's one time, it's like, okay. But if it happens over and over again, it's like, dang, like you're really letting me down. It was that type of thing. It wasn't like they were lying to me or nothing, but it was like they weren't there for me type of thing. Yeah. So something that I had to deal with that was, I wasn't taking responsibility for my own like dysfunction at a certain point, because I was so quick to point the finger at this person, like, I'm dealing with this because of them. I'm dealing with this because of that, this situation that happened. And then I had to look up at some point, like, bro, like, it's been a year. At this point, you're not dealing with this because of them. You're dealing with this because of you. Because, I mean, you had your time to grieve. You had your time to be upset. But at some point, you have to take responsibility for that. And that even stems from, I mean, we've all heard it, like, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility, right? And I think about how when we used to have, like, company over the crib and, like, people would eat and then everyone left and it's like you have to clean up everything. I used to be so mad washing the dishes, doing 20 plates when I only, like, use one. But at the end of the day, like, it's still my house and I'm responsible for, like, how clean it is, and I'm responsible for keeping it well kept. And it's the same for our minds. Like, regardless of the condition someone left it in, it's still your house. So
that's hard. I'm not gonna lie, that's hard.
It's still your house.
I used to hate doing them dishes.
I know, bro. You feel me? I used to be mad. Like, why am I cleaning this up? Like, I gotta do this. Crazy. I'm saying that it's still your house, and that's something I had to realize. Like, don't be so quick to point the finger at everyone else. At some point, you have to take responsibility for that. Like, your dysfunction is your dysfunction. You got to deal with this. So that's something I had to learn, and something I think other people need to know as well. Like, it's a hard thing though. It's a hard thing to really face, because I mean, there's still a part of you that feels like, dang, like, I got to deal with this, bro. But I mean, it has to be done. It's unavoidable. So.
But no, I think that's a fire report for real. But, and also one thing, kind of going back that I forgot to mention, even on just like discerning like who to trust and not to trust. Yeah. I think it's always like when we think about like love and trust and like loyalty and people really being by your side, being like true friends or day one, like whatever you want to like fill in the blank there. I think we have to realize that like, it's always easy to trust, love, and be loyal, like when it's easy.
Right.
Like whenever you haven't gone through anything that's inconvenient.
Okay.
Right. And so I think sometimes it's like you can't trust a loyalty that hasn't been tested.
That's a good point.
Like you can't trust a loyalty that hasn't been tested. And so I think sometimes, okay, like we may get into like these relationships and be like, oh yeah, this is my ride or die.
Yeah.
But y'all ain't gone through a ride or die moment.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean?
And
it's not that like you're being pessimistic. And because I fall into that too. It's like, it's not that like you're saying that, oh, they won't be there when that moment comes. It's just like, being very aware of like, okay, like, hey, like this has yet to be like tested. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes like we always have to keep that in the back of our mind too, of like, okay, like being, or at least being very aware when moments of adversity and inconvenience comes, like, hey, like, okay, where are you? Like, where's your position in my life? How are you acting? How are you responding? Right. To really know, okay, like, hey, is this like something that I can continue to put my trust in?
Like, that's when like that's
right,
the
exactly.
indicator.
Like that is like that's really like the the barometer of like, okay, bet, like this is where it's really at. Right. Sometimes I think we can like overlook that because of all the good times where everything was cool.
Right.
Because I know that's like happened to me before. It's like, okay, like, well, like this, you know what I mean? They shown a few red flags here of like, all right, they may have not done this, or like when it got hard, but like, for the most part,
it's been,
it's been cool.
Yeah,
like they've been, they've been solid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But are they really? And were they when it mattered? And so I think that's always just important to keep in mind as we obviously continue the conversation of like dealing with trust issues, of like that discernment piece. Like, also
that's important.
Like, like, hey, look, are they worthy of it up front? Just kind of looking at that. And then like, okay, when all these moments are happening, what's that looking like on both sides? So I thought that was super important.
I think something else in situations like that, when these hard times do come and people, they respond in ways you didn't necessarily expect, like they weren't there for you or they weren't present when you needed them to be. I think we can't completely rule out the idea that there's like other things going on, in the sense that I think we're real quick to validate our own emotions and our own situations, but never even give a second thought to like, okay, what are they dealing with? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's an automatic, like, you weren't there for me. Like, oh, like that's messed up. And we're not even asking like, okay, how are you? Like, did you have something going on? Because I've been in situations where it's like,
wait, hold on.
What?
So wait, how are you? I'm not asking them how they doing after they burn me.
That's fair. That's fair. But I'm saying like we have to get outside of that mindset, because I feel like you never really know. Like, what if sometimes people's inability to be there for you is completely out of their control. Like, what if they have something externally going on with their family or an emergency, or they got so much stuff that they're fighting on their own, they can't be there for you, like, no matter how much they want to, type stuff. And I think that can only be excused for so long, but I'm saying you can't completely push that off the table. That's what we're doing.
No, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That goes into like a communication piece. I think we talked about this maybe a little bit in Fair Trade or another episode, but it's like like understanding like what's really going on. It's like, okay, when we're indicating or like looking or trying to analyze or examine, okay, like trust and like, is someone like loyal or like really there for me? Okay, when they have a moment where like they may have fallen short of that, right? Like really like looking at, okay, like they could have been going through something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's possible.
This is the point I'm getting at.
What's good?
It's the fact that like sometimes you can intentionally hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Right? It's like for example, so hey, for me, like my love language or like I put trust in like, okay, you maybe like affirming me or being there for me in this particular way.
Yeah.
And maybe that person unintentionally may have showed up for you in a different way that they felt was adequate enough, but it didn't look like that for you. And so that may like leave you a bit hurt and like, you know, your trust a little like shaken in them,
right?
But it wasn't even intentional, right? And so I think that makes sense on that.
Yeah,
that makes sense on that end.
Yeah, that my main point is just like you shouldn't completely hang your hat on that, but don't, because I think it's not even on the table for some people. It's just an automatic. I'm invalidating everything else. All that matters right now is how I'm feeling. And I think we have to get outside of that. Like sometimes it's a bad habit, in my opinion. It's a bad habit to have.
And it just always depends on like what it is.
Yeah.
Always.
So that's
with
just
everything.
That's
nuance
just
with it all.
Yeah, that's something else I've noticed, and certain things I wish I could have like corrected in past like situations. So yeah, that was a lesson I had to learn.
That makes sense. And then kind of I guess going into really looking at like, I guess how to deal with it. Okay. You know what I mean? Like in terms of, okay, like now I have this issue of like, I for real like gang, like I'm not giving my heart
like
to
at
nobody.
this point the ladder's falling.
No, I'm not taking any more steps.
Okay.
Like I've been burned. Like I got hurt. You couldn't imagine.
Right.
You know what I mean? From peers and people I really gave everything to, from family I knew for years that literally switched up on me. You know what I mean?
Like what to do.
And there's this line from the song that I've been really, I don't know why I've been on like I've been on the up and up, but I be liking like sad music.
Bro,
I be on the up and up nowadays with the, you know, but I've been liking sad music. And one line in West Side Boogie, he's got a song and one line in it that reminded me of this is the fact that he said, "Remind me if my heart do break, remind me that it's gonna reshape." Right? And what this
you know when you drink the water and it go down the wrong tube?
My bad, y'all. You're crazy.
Go ahead.
No, but he had that line, and why I mention that is because I think that whenever we're having this conversation about trust, like I don't think you can really trust people fully without putting your complete trust in God first. Right. And when I was watching that Rated R thing, one of the quotes that stood out that Matthew Stevenson said is the fact that, yo, like if you don't trust people, it's because of what you don't believe God can do if you get hurt.
That's a bar.
Right. And you're more willing to trust someone when you know the Lord has your back.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, like, hey, you know, I may, because sometimes, hey, you may go through the process of like, you know, okay, hey, like they've been proven to actually be like someone that I can trust and like give these things to, and they still may have a moment where they burn you. You feel what I'm saying? Where like things switch up.
Yeah.
But like even if that does happen, I'm not gonna allow this one moment to then like dictate how I like live out my entire life.
Yeah.
Right. And so it makes it easier for me to go and try and take that step again when I know, hey, even if I give this a chance and it don't work out, God got me.
He got me.
I know even if my heart break, I know the one who's gonna mend it back together.
Reshape it.
You know what I mean? Like I know that for a fact, and so now that I have my complete trust in God, it makes it easier for me to navigate things like in relationships, because like God's never going to like let your life be ruined over how somebody else did you.
Mm-hmm. Not at all.
And so sometimes it comes down to that. That's why this conversation can't be had without like God being present in it, because there can be no true trust.
Right.
You feel me? Mm-hmm. And so I think that, I mean, that even helps me a lot, even with like like giving it a chance, like giving more people a try, because it's okay. Hey, it's gonna hurt. trust. I may need like, a month, 3 or whatever, but I know at the end of the day, like, hey, I'm gonna be good.
I'm straight.
God's not gonna leave me here in this position with this broken heart.
Yeah.
Right. With these things I still need to mend. If I give it to him, I know I'm gonna be good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that obviously doesn't just like you should just be throwing your heart out there anyway. Willy nilly. But right in those moments that you do and it doesn't turn out in the right way, like he still got you regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this verse that I saw and trust. I mean, when it talks about like putting your trust in the Lord, like it's all over Psalms, but it's in Psalms 56:4. And it says, when I am afraid, I put my trust in you, in God, whose word I praise, in God I trust. I shall not be afraid. What can flesh do to me? And so I think that just like was reinforcing like a testament to like the point of like, yo, what can mere man, mortals, and humans like do, right? If I really do believe who God is and what he can do for me.
Exactly. You can't do nothing to hurt me at this point.
For a fact.
Yeah. And I guess I'd add to that in terms of just like going with the same flow of like, you've been hurt, you're dealing with it, like measures from like for like future relationships. I'd say just start off small. I mean, you mentioned earlier in your point, just like it has to be something that's tested. So like, don't be afraid to test it. Like start off with something small and just like see how this person responds, see how this person reacts, and then like go from there. So I mean, I look at it like, so I have a friend that has a trust fund, and how that works is like his grandparents have a whole bunch of money for him, but they're not just going to like give him the money straight up because they don't know what he's going to do with the money. Like they don't know if he's like going to go spend it, so they give him a little bit at a time. You know what I mean? Like a little bit every 3 months or something like that, just see what he does with it until they get to the point where they feel like they can give him all of it. And it's like it works. It's kind of the same thing. Like don't be afraid to test it. Like do a little bit at a time, and then once you get to a point where you feel like, oh, I could trust you with this big amount now, and then. So I think that's something that's helped me even like with getting over something like that. Just start small, test it, see how they respond. If it's going well, then like, slowly give more and more and more. So yeah, that's what I'd say to that.
Yeah. And it'd be so hard. Like, oh my goodness. It is like one of the most difficult things. I think I was having this conversation was it today? I think it was today about like, yo, like, because it goes back to like, yo, you need God for everything.
At the end of the day,
like that sounds so cliche, but
real
you
talk.
need God. You need God to find God. You need God, right? Like
you need God to love God,
right?
Like,
you need Him. That's what Holy Spirit for is literally our helper to help us like do all that we need. Because I think I was having a conversation about forgiveness. And I think we have a conversation about like cheating or something or whatever. But like it was about forgiveness and like how that's hard. And like the person said like, yo, like it's hard for me to forgive. Like afterwards, like you do me wrong, I'll be wanting to be petty. Like I'm not toxic, but let somebody try and, you feel me? Like no real talk. Like let somebody try and like do me wrong and it's up.
right.
And we have that conversation and it's just like, it really is a God thing, for like for you to trust and have that, like, I guess like the maturity in your heart, because naturally, like in my flesh, like, bro, like, and I haven't noticed that in myself until like I've gotten to those situations. Yo, I can be so nasty.
Yeah.
Like real talk, bro. I'm not toxic, y'all. I'm really not. I promise you I'm not.
I promise, bro.
And there's only certain levels to like toxicity that I'll ever get to. Like I'll never let myself go.
There's
to
like
the
a
full
line.
extent,
Yeah, like there's a line.
Right?
But I'm gonna hit that line.
But that bare minimum, like, yo, like when my heart, you know what I mean, is in that position, in that state, like, yo, right? And so it really just does take like God in order to just allow you to like hey, take a step back from all of that.
Real talk.
And, continue what you need to do and take those steps to heal. And so, I just mentioned that to like obviously say that, yo, this whole conversation can't be had without like God being at the center. Like, of course, with everything, but especially with this. And I don't think that's always even mentioned or thought about when you're thinking about like trust issues. In my head, it's not the first thing I'm thinking about ever.
That's fair. Do you think you could ever like remend a bridge that was broken, if, like when someone broke your trust? Well, I mean, I guess that's a hard question. It would just depend on what happened, I guess. So.
Like, I mean, it
would just depend. So like, let me scratch that.
But also what I want to mention is kind of like, I guess, ending off a little bit, going along with everything of like how to get through it is, I think that sometimes, like you said, we can just like stay within our dysfunction. And I think one of the best things that you can do is like give yourself a moment to feel it. Right. Be real with where you're at, the emotions you have. Like, yo, like I want to X, Y, and Z to them. I'm not going to, but you know me, be real with that. However you do, you know how people say like, hey, like if I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I'll set a 5-minute timer or whatever. And after that, I'm not giving it no thought.
That's what I'm saying.
Give yourself that time to like
important.
actually grieve, whatever, be upset, frustrated. Like, but like, I think what's important is to always like make sure that you get into the healing, the steps of like healing as quick as possible.
Right.
Because I think what happens is like we never even get to the start, like the point of actually trying, because we spend so much time. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
And just like reserving our right to be hurt and just being frustrated. I know that's just the same with me. Like, yo, I'll just like see her hurt and I like, yo, just without like go ahead and like taking the steps and just moving on. There's an art to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that is a difficult transition to make, which is why you hear a lot people saying like, don't be mad. Like that's sort of like the message you feel like you hear is like, don't be mad, like get over it. But like, and I think the reason why is because it is a hard transition and people get so caught up in that they remain that way forever. But that's not the case. Like you have to, you gotta allow yourself to be mad, but you just have to like transition out of that into something else.
No, 100%. I know that definitely like works for me, because sometimes I think maybe like it's like this the retaliation factor of like, yo, like I'm sitting here with this hurt and I need them to feel that sometimes. I don't know.
Sometimes that's what it is.
You know what I mean? And so that's kind of why you may like stay right there, but I don't think it's something that you necessarily get over. Like when I think about healing, it's just something that you kind of like get through. Yeah. So just like walk through it and continue the steps and processes for you to like, you know, get to that next stage. Yeah. Because it's a ladder. You need it.
It's a ladder.
It's a ladder.
You need it to climb.
You need it. It's simple.
That was a bar. I'm not gonna lie.
It's simple.
That might have been the highlight of the EP. That
you
was
like
fire.
that, bro? I was trying to get your analogy bag. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like you when I was writing.
Your bag is getting extensive, bro.
Yeah, that's my Duffy. I felt like you whenever I was doing that. No lie, I was in bed writing that. Like, this is what Jordan feel like. This is how I feel like
when I'm writing notes.
Yeah, right. No, bro. You got anything else? What you got? You just closing remarks.
Yeah. You know, let me reiterate just that. I want to go back to that point I made about leaving room for other possibilities and like where other people are at when they let you down. But also on the other end of that, just making sure you're not leaning on that too much, because then you can allow people to walk all over you because you're like letting too much slide. Because I didn't mention that enough, and I wanted to say that like to preface that real quick. Like, make sure that doesn't happen. It has to be a balance at the end of the day. That's the way it is with a lot of things. It has to be a balance between, you know, being considerate of like other external things, but also not letting too much slide. But it is an important aspect that you need to, you know, put into your life.
Yeah, I'll just say like last point what I was mentioning is like, yo, the more you're more willing to trust someone when you know the Lord has your back, or rather when you really believe that He's the rock. He's the rock
At the end of the day.
So yeah,
at the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day.
For a fact, yeah. Sure. No, see, you messed me up. That's crazy. No, but
I try not to laugh.
Come on. No, but your trust is in Him, right? So complete trust in God will allow you to even start the process of trusting people.
Indeed.
And that's where it starts, where it's the end, and then where it ends, period.
Period.
For a fact. So look, y'all know what it is. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Hey, y'all check us out next Wednesday.
You know what I saw?
And live. Come on, bro.
My fault, bro.
What?
My fault. I saw this. You said period. It reminded me of this caption I saw. Someone was like, I would say period, but I ain't quite done yet. Is that fire?
Look, y'all, we'll catch y'all next week on Wednesday live, IG and TikTok, 8 p.m. Eastern. Y'all check us out there. But y'all know what it is. Stay you,
stay real,
and stay humble. Much love.